In this lecture, we are going to look at if single if selection control structure. Though we have already seen it in the previous lecture, so here again, this lecture we are going to see it one more time. So and to illustrate the usage of if selection structure again, we are going to create a program that will decide whether a student pass a test or not. So let's assume it is a teacher that just conducted a test for his student, and then he wants to create a Python program to help him evaluate whether a student has passed a test or otherwise. So the pass mark for the test is 50. So based on whether the student 50 and above, 50 to 100. Now, if a student has scored 50 to 100, the student has passed the test, and if he has not, he has scored anything less than that, then he has failed the test. So we are going to create a very basic program that will utilize single if selection control structure to create the program. So the first thing we are going to do, we are going to prompt the user to enter a score. So to do that, I'm going to start scripting. Score. Alright, so line number 5, we are making use of input function one more time to ask the user to enter a score. And then if the user, after the user has entered the score, we are now going to assign it to variable score. So basically a variable is a storage location in a computer memory. So you can assume a variable like a bucket. When you have a bucket, we know it's a container that will hold anything fluid, anything liquid. So we can use a bucket to keep water inside. So actually the bucket is the variable, and the water inside is the value. So when we compare a variable to a bucket, so variable is the bucket, and then the water, the liquid inside, is the value that the variable contains. So variable, just a location within, is just a name for a storage location in the computer memory, and within that variable we have a value. Like in this case, the score is a variable, and then the user of this program is going to input a score. Now once the user of this program input that score is going to be stored in that variable score within the computer memory. All right, so here we say that we are going to use this. All right, let's proceed. So score input, enter the score. Now next we are going to make use of if selection control structure to now decide if the student, so if score is greater than or equals to 50. All right, so if score is greater than or equals to 50, then we are going to print a message asking notifying the teacher that the student has passed the test. The student has passed the test. Okay, so but basically we say that input, whatsoever input got from the terminal, is going to be accepted as a string. Now we need to convert it into a numerical data type, since we are going to make use of it to perform a comparison in line number 7. So to do so, we are going to make use of typecasting as we did earlier, but instead of converting it to integer, I'm going to convert it to float. By reason for convert to float, because the user, this is a test, a student might score something like 50.5, 50.6, 50.7, a floating point number, and I don't assume that the teacher will approximate the value, will round up the value. So I assume that the teacher will want to input the score as a floating point number. So that is why we are converting the score to using typecasting to convert what the teacher is going to input into a float. Okay, now if score is greater than or equals to 50, let's say 50.0, and now also the comparison, let's make it a floating point. Score greater than or equals to 50.0, then he's going to print the student has passed the test. All right, so now let's before we go further, let's run this program and see if it is working up to this point. Okay, so let me clear the terminal. and then I'm going to ls, make sure that I have the file within this particular directory. Okay, single if.py. Now I'm going to make use of the write the name of the interpreter that I wish to run this file with, which is Python 3, and then single if.py, which is the name of the file, and then I will just hit enter. Enter the score. Now the score is 50.0, or let's say 51.7. The student has passed the test. So according to the criteria we have coded in the script, we know that our script is working correctly. Now let's assume they use the student score something less than 50. Enter the score 34, and the program print nothing. So we don't know whether the student has passed the test or has failed the test. That means we need to go and modify our code and add something to it to also notify us when the student has failed the test. All right, so to do so, since we are still under single if control structure, so I can just copy this, copy it, and then come down, and then I'll paste it here. Now the next if selection control structure will now decide if the student has failed the test. Now give us and print the appropriate message. It's less than 50, so let it be less than 50. Anything less than 50, we know that the student has failed the test. So let it print out the student has failed the test. The student has failed the test. All right, so let's go back and run it again and make sure that everything is working correctly. So I'm going to run my script, enter the score 12. The student has failed the test. So basically this is how if selection control structure works. So we have the if, then we have the condition to evaluate. Now if the condition evaluated true, then the statement, a statement or statements, it can be a statement, a single statement or multiple statement under the if, will now be evaluated if the condition has evaluated true. But if it has not evaluated true, then transfer of control will move onto the next line. Like in this case, if since we enter 12 at the score in the previous run of our program, the student scored 12 and we enter 12. So when it comes to line number 7, if score is greater than or equals 50, now the condition has failed. Now it will move to line number 10 instead of moving to line number 8. It will ignore line number 8. It will not execute line number 8. It will move straight to line number 10 and then evaluate the if control structure, which in this case will evaluate it true since 12 is less than 50.0.